Hey, how's it going? I just cut him off in the middle of a sentence. I'm Ink. I run the Smash Bracket channel, and
I'm Real Lemon. I'm the head researcher for the team.
yeah, and we're here to kind of answer your guys' questions. Oh, I've got your alert box right over the chat. Let's move that. We'll make them real tiny, right down here. How's it going, everyone? Let's see. Who do we have here? We've got Animation Guy. Really was the first one here. How's it going? Let's see. EA Sports. Good to see you. Big fan of your work. Oh wait, no. You just commented EA Sports and not a big fan of your work. Let's see. How's it going, The Brisk? Jay Gamer. Good to see you. Bulla Boy. It's midnight for you. Wow. Well, props to you for being here. I wouldn't be here if it was midnight, and I'm the one running it. Will we be getting some info on Fox versus Sonic? Yeah, we can talk about that a bit. I'll go ahead and lay out what we're doing in just a second. Crimson Cat, good to see you. Thank you so much for congrats on my new son. Let me go ahead and move this cord out of the way. Yeah, super good to see you guys come in. So the purpose of today's stream, we're wanting to make this a somewhat regular thing, where we're able to kind of field your questions about Smash Bracket. And today we actually have an announcement of an upcoming fan-chosen Smash Bracket for a bit of a side series that we're really excited to talk about. Do you have anything you were going to say before we get started? Or
No, I don't think so. We're here to answer all the questions. I'll probably be handling most of the research ones, since I'm the one dealing with that. Yeah,
Lemon handles almost all of the research for us. We have a full research team, but he's at the head of all of it. I did a good amount of it for the first 3 episodes, which is why those ones are bad. And even then, it was mostly me talking with Lemon. But yeah, let's see. Camera's a bit whack. Saturation is off. Oh, we'll fix it next time. Let me scoot that out of the way. So yeah, we're going to take your questions in a little bit, but first off, I kind of want to give an introduction to Smash Bracket, what it is, why we started it, and how we're different. Because this is something that I've noticed coming up a lot, is people see what we do and that it resembles Death Battle in appearance, and so they kind of come to our channel assuming a Death Battle type presentation. And I'm sure you notice the same thing in the community Discord.
Yeah, all the time. I think that the differences in how we handle things are going to be the biggest point of, maybe not contention, but definitely difference of opinion. And I think that talking about the whys behind that are important too. I've heard some people a little confused with the rule set. We're not doing it just to be different or like be weird about it. So we'll get into that a bit.
Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of start off with what Smash Bracket is, why we got there, and then if you want to kind of break down the rule set and what makes us different, and then maybe we can kind of talk about some miscommunications or misconceptions about that. That'd be good.
We probably should mod someone.
Oh yeah, we probably should mod someone.
Get Frostbite.
Yeah, Frostbite, you're hired.
So the rule set, I think, can actually be boiled down pretty simply. We have a fairly big write-up for it and a video for it linked on the channel, but what it comes down to is that we've got a see it to believe it approach for feats. That means that a lot of characters are going to end up being weaker than some people are used to. But it also means that characters are going to be more in line with the strength that they actually, like, display in the game. There's a lot of situations like Mario, for instance, where if you really dive into the lore of the series and spend a long time looking at all the implications of things that happen, there's a strong case for him being like this being beyond universes. Whereas if you play the games, you're like, he's a dude who can jump pretty high.
Is this Mario you're talking about?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we're not necessarily disagreeing with those higher level interpretations as much as we're not interested in them. To us, it's a lot more interesting to see what a character has actually done and what they're capable of. A big problem that I see with a lot of existing examinations of characters' abilities is that characters from the same franchise end up being the exact same. You have Mario who can do something and Luigi who keeps up to him, so Luigi can do everything else. And so we're trying to avoid that and make the cast feel as distinct as possible. And by only sticking to feats that we can actually like see and measure, that's a big part of bringing everyone to what we feel is a good balance between their intended power level and their displayed power level.
Yeah, and kind of going off the back of that, like we use it as a way to make sure everyone is kind of at that balance. But for me personally, one of the reasons I wanted to do it is everybody has their biases, and I don't necessarily trust myself with my favorite characters to not be like, well, they didn't really portray this, but I bet that was probably multi-universal plus or something like that. And I think by having a system where we can say they can only do these things if we can look at them, we have the most reliable system to get rid of bias, at least among the research team. And so, yeah, that's been a useful thing for, it's been a useful thing to look at as far as consistency across each character.
It's definitely helped the team be a lot more unbiased and on the same page, because we do all have our biases, and there have been a lot of times where we're like working on our favorite character and they're not quite as strong as we want, and
Isabel
so we try and
isn't
cheat. And it's really easy to just rein ourselves in when we're like, well, that doesn't work with our rules.
Which is part of the reason that we kind of grew our research team. We have a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds now to make sure that we don't have any bias or favoritism towards certain characters, and we're all constantly trying to check each other out. Don't take that out of context. But yeah, anyway, so kind of getting on with how Smash Bracket came about. I've been running a channel called Ink Thinks for the last 2 years or so. And just recently I released a series called Rise of, like Rise of Alpharad, Rise of Scott the Woz, where I do a deep dive into a YouTuber's backstory and their history. And that was coming off the heels of another successful series that I did, which was Final Analysis, taking Super Smash Bros. Characters and talking about their chances. Also with which Lemon had a huge hand in researching. But I noticed that we were finally starting to get ad revenue from it, and I wanted to find a way to pour it back into the community rather than keep it. It's not necessarily something I need right now. I actually wanted to do one of those donating to random Smash streamers videos, and I was pretty set on it, and then Lemon was basically like, yeah, that's a stupid idea, don't do that, let's do something that actually has a product we can give back to people.
I think the end result is definitely a lot cooler right now.
Yeah, I like this a lot more than donating to random Smash streamers.
They might not agree, though.
Yeah, you guys might not agree. Especially people who are upset with where we put Mario and Mega Man. But yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of how the series came about. I put out a call for an animator on my community tab. I got in contact with King Ike, who is a super fantastic animator. He's been a great help. And so King Ike and I worked together to make the very first Link versus Ridley battle that is on the channel right now. We didn't really know where it was going. It got posted to the Ink Thinks channel. And we kind of sporadically posted the next 2 battles, Mario versus Mega Man, and then King DDD versus King K. Rool over the next month or so. Or next couple of months. But when I saw that, I started to notice in my analytics that I was getting a different audience for my Rise of Creator videos and my Final Analysis videos and my Smash Bracket videos on the other side of things. So I thought that having a place where we could focus just Smash Bracket content would be a really cool first step to take. But yeah, that's kind of how Smash Bracket got to where it is. I've always loved versus battle series like Death Battle and just having conversations like that. And as far as the rule set, like we mentioned, we did it to eliminate bias. We did it because we felt like we could be consistent across every character. And then also a quote that I keep coming back to is, when everybody is super, no one will be, from the Bible or something. And yeah, so kind of all those came together to form what we have today. But do you want to take a second and break down the rule set? I can pull it up if you want to reference it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Do it verbatim from memory.
I definitely can't. I know the philosophy behind our rule set, but I rarely actually have it pulled up in front of me.
You can kind of go ahead and explain the philosophy while I...
Well, like I touched on a little bit before, the philosophy is that we want to keep the series at a point where we are trying to demonstrate the displayed level of power that a character shows, rather than like implied levels of power or like levels of power that you could conceptually argue if you're like stretching interpretations of feats. And so that boils down to giving us a lot of rules about what kind of feats we are and aren't allowing, like discarding multiplayer feats versus minigames. It gets rid of power scaling for the most part. And it really puts the emphasis on like looking through what a character can actually do. So to actually go through the rules, now that I've got those pulled up.
And you guys can pull these up in a video we have on the channel right now, the rules of Smash Bracket, if you want to kind of see the visual along with us. But yeah.
So the first rule, and the most important one, I think, is that feats have to be demonstrated in order for them to count. There's a little bit of leniency on this, especially in with some of the characters who have like manga or really old cutscenes, like Ryu from some of his older games has just like slideshows where things happen. But they do have to like be shown in some way for us to count them. It doesn't count for... It eliminates a lot of power scaling, like when people say the Chaos Emeralds can move continents and therefore Sonic should. We don't really do that because Sonic has never shown that he can move continents or anything like that. Anything you want to add about that one?
Let's see, for just rule 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to add that we kind of have a hierarchy for how we interpret things. So it must be demonstrated, but obviously you could demonstrate Mario dying by touching a turtle if you want to only look at gameplay and have a rule set around that, putting Sonic at 24 miles per hour or something like that. And that's just not going to be any fun for anyone. So do you remember the hierarchy we have?
Yeah, so first of all, we are counting things in cutscenes, primarily. Then we are looking at gameplay after that, and then we're looking at like in-game texts and descriptions and statements, and then we're looking at other official statements. And those last two we don't look at for feats as much as we look at to contextualize feats. So there's a lot of official statements about how strong a character is or what they can do, but we don't look at that and say, okay, there's this one coloring book that says Sonic can move at light speed and therefore he can. We look at that and say that the intention is for Sonic to go at light speed, so any ambiguous feats that he has, we're going to be more lenient with or rule upwards. Mm-hmm. And let's see, Sephiroth is a good example of that. We haven't released a video on him, but we've done some research, and he's got a lot of feats that are like really bizarre or like would normally be thrown out as an outlier or just some weird animations. But then we go and look at the official statements, and they are all confirming that Sephiroth is like super crazy strong, and so we trust them and go with the displayed feat.
What he's getting at is if a feat looks ambiguous, we kind of put it in context through creator statements. So if something looks like, wow, that was insanely strong, but the animation is a little weird or it doesn't quite reflect what we would expect, then we're more likely to accept things like that if it's backed up by children's coloring books for Sonic, or backed up by creator statements, especially, and then especially in-game text.
But we won't go looking at, like, say there's an official statement saying villager destroys mountains for fun off screen. We're not going to give him mountain level power because of that, because he doesn't display that in game.
Right. But for an example, if in his game villager got knocked through a mountain and it fell apart, and it kind of looked like they were doing it as a gag, but then there's all this stuff out there about Villager being a mountain destroyer who just every morning wakes up and throws darts at pictures of mountains and likes to go and tear them down for fun, then we would probably give a bit more credence to the Villager mountain destroying feat that doesn't exist.
Yep. Shall we move on then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to number 2. Let me see actually real fast if I got any questions specifically about rule number 1. Oh, it wasn't the Bible, it was Incredibles.
Well, I don't see a difference, honestly.
We're not getting into religion. We're not getting into religion until the Lucas video.
Ugh. Actually, Persona will deal with that first.
No, Persona will deal with that. Anyway.
The justifiable is a person.
Yeah, I don't see any questions super specific to Rule 1. I do see a lot of questions generally for Smash Bracket, and we'll make sure to field those after we talk about the rule set specifically.
Any mods or research people on here, it would be awesome if you could collect questions that you think are interesting and then post them back to us later.
Yep.
So rule number 2 then, that is that dramatic outliers in strength either need to be backed up by other similar feats or lore or official statements. Otherwise, we're not going to consider it. And that's kind of what we were talking about with the villager mountain feat, theoretically. But also, it's a bad example because we're redoing the video, but Mario kicking a castle, we threw that out initially as being an outlier. Because it just was a lot above what Mario could normally do. We're not getting into where Mario actually stands because we're reevaluating all of that.
Yeah. But within the context of that video, the other maximum strength feats we had for that character were 1,000,000 times less than the castle kicking feat. And so I think I phrased it in early videos as throwing out gags, and that's not necessarily the rule. It's just making sure that anything that's done as an outlier is an intentional representation of the characters, rather than just something done as a one-off joke that, if used in a battle context or a versus battle discussion, would start representing a different character than who the developers were trying to create.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I had a good example of one. Oh, I know. Snake. He's got this feat that's too much of an outlier for basically every community, where he lifts and throws a Metal Gear, and his next best feat is like lifting one end of a Jeep. So that is something that is definitely not considered valid.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions on rule number 2 before we go on about outliers? I'll look through some past questions while you guys type.
I will say that we are a little like we're fairly generous with that, especially when characters don't have a lot of feats. There haven't been very many things that we've thrown out as an outlier.
Right. A question from Tim saying, "What the? Both of you?"
Yes.
There you go. All right, so let's get on to question number 3. Rule number 3.
So that's fights happen in our universe with Earth-centric physics and reality. This one, I think we need to rephrase because it's not very representative of what's actually going on. The idea here is that we can't assume that we know enough about most fictional worlds to figure out their physics and how it's different from ours. And so when there's any ambiguity, we're treating feats as happening on Earth. And for the sake of the fights, we are keeping them in a neutral location, which will be our Earth, but not to the point where it's excluding, like, character-specific abilities. Like, Joker's still getting Mementos, and Sephiroth and Cloud will be able to access their powers that relate to the Livestream, stuff like that. It's just that we're not going to get into trying to figure out all of the different things that would happen with cartoon physics and cartoon realities, unless there's like a lot of explicit information that helps us do so.
Yeah. Let's see. Mod is saying someone wants to know how PSI will be affected. Like in terms of feats needing to be demonstrated? We can get into some more character-specific questions after this. But if you have something generally about the rules, then feel free to ask. I don't think I saw anything. Okay, yeah. So next up is rule number 4, and this is about power scaling. That's a rule that I think is often really misunderstood with how it's handled in our series. So if you want to kind of break that down.
Yeah, so power scaling, to scale characters to something, it has to be shown in a measurable way. If someone beats a boss, we're not instantly going to say that they're better than that boss in terms of speed and strength and durability and everything. We have to be able to measure feats for that boss, and then they have to be directly comparable to what the boss did. In general, that's going to leave attack power relatively untouched. We will scale that more often than anything else, because if a boss or another character has demonstrated considerable durability, that has to be overcome to like knock them out or kill them. But things like you don't need to be stronger than someone to beat them in a fight, so attack power is usually not going to scale. And you usually don't need to be faster than someone in a fight, so that's not going to scale unless it was like a direct race, or it was like a clear point in the fight that speed was being compared.
You can give, I think both DDD and Meta Knight, we scaled one of them to Kirby in a way, but we didn't scale the other. Yeah, that would be a good example.
DDD was able to knock out Kirby, which means that he had at least enough attack power to overcome Kirby's durability. At the very least, his minimum durability is what we put it to. Kirby has been knocked out by a very wide variety of things.
Including a kiss.
Yes. We are scaling him to kissing. Meta Knight, on the other hand, while he has fought Kirby several times, has never knocked him out. And so there's not really anything that scales to Kirby on Meta Knight's side.
We've just seen they fight, and we can see who wins, but we don't know what factors are going into that. We can't say they're hitting just as hard as that person does at their absolute max. So that's kind of the difference for that there. We have a question. What does composite mean when using? So we can get into that a bit more for number 6. Rule number 6. Let's see. Are you putting any limitations on what characters can fight each other in the custom battle? We'll get into the custom battle after this as well. I think we are good to move on to rule number 5, which is about win conditions.
This one's simple. Fights can be won via pacification, incapacitation, surrender, or death. So we got a lot of characters on the roster who are just like insanely durable, and also a lot of characters who they don't really kill when they fight, and a lot of their kit is focused on doing other things than delivering death. And so with this rule, we're trying to even the playing field a bit and make for more interesting strategies, and make it so that we don't have stalemates. Lucas versus Wario is one that I hear a lot of people think will be a stalemate, but I don't, because they don't need to kill each other.
Right. So, for example, if you had 2 supposedly immortal characters who couldn't die, and then you put them against each other, in other rule sets, it might just be a total stalemate because they can't kill each other. But in this, you could pacify them, you could lock them up, put them in a box, put them in the bottom of the ocean. Like, there's all sorts of different win conditions that you can get without having to explicitly kill the person.
And Marth versus Meta Knight was a great example of this. Neither of them could hurt each other, because Marth had his crazy invincibility stone, and he also just didn't hit very hard. So the fight outcome wasn't determined by who could kill the other. It was just Meta Knight fighting till Marth couldn't go on anymore.
Right. Which I really like, because it means that figuring out who wins in a fight isn't going to be a matter of who has the highest stats always. It can be something that's a bit more fluid than that. And there could be, for example, a situation where there's a battle where one character has higher stats in every other ability, but if they don't have the right strategy, or the person who's going against them has a really good strategy, they could still find a way to close out the fight, which I think adds a fun level of unpredictability to it, and gives a few other ways to call the battles. It's Ganon versus Isabel. Guilty. I'm actually so excited for that battle. I wish I could show you guys. Actually, now is a good time to mention we just launched a Patreon like 30 minutes ago, where we will be showing early access to music, and at a slightly higher tier, early access to work in progresses for the animations. So if that interests you guys, would you be able to post the link?
Yeah, let me grab that.
Or if you send it to Frostbite, he's really good about posting stuff typically. I actually don't know if he's still here.
I will post it in chat, and Frostbite can spam it at will.
Great. While he posts that, I'll go through and answer a few quick questions here. Yeah, Meta Knight didn't kill Marth. We talked about that. Luigi's gonna surrender. I've heard a lot of people not wanting to see Luigi fight Daisy. I promise we're gonna find a fun way to do that. It's not just gonna be all of a sudden they are just going for each other's throats and it feels bad for fans of the character. That's something I try to keep in mind when scripting how the actual fight goes, is I want it to feel reflective of the characters. I don't want them to just suddenly get in a mode where they're totally unrecognizable as their character, if that makes sense. Let's see. What's your favorite fight so far? I think my favorite fight so far has been Captain Falcon versus Falco. That whole video in general, I worked really hard on. I think I spent like 36 hours in a row editing it.
It's not a good idea.
It was not a good idea. I'm surprised it turned out as well as it did. But the animation is also fantastic. Levitation did a fantastic job on that. What's your favorite battle so far?
I think mine is Meta Knight versus Marth.
Really?
Yeah, I really like the choreography on that one, and I feel like it's a good example of how some of our rules came into play more than they might in other animations.
Yeah. Let's see. They're saying, what's the Discord? I didn't find it. Or what's the Patreon? Did you post the Patreon there?
I did. Let me tag Frostbite in it.
Okay, great. Who do you think will be most affected by the rules of Smash Bracket? That's actually a great question. We'll get to that after we go through our last rule, though, which I'll go ahead and read through, and then you can jump in afterwards.
I just posted that link.
That's embarrassing. You had our live stream pulled up on your phone, and I went, "Oh, who's she?" And it was me. The lighting was just weird. That's nice. Anyway, rule 6.
All right. Only canonical material represented in Smash will be taken into consideration. So this one is just trying to avoid situations where we've got some alternate canon or alternate materials who are... It's not showing up in chat.
I'm going to send my Discord.
Yeah. You take over.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So a good example of this is Mega Man. For Mega Man, the only character we see portrayed in his character in Smash is the original Mega Man from games 1 to 11. Whereas there's other versions of the character, like Mega Man X or Mega Man Star Force, who are all Mega Man, but they're different versions of the character, and they're not the one that's represented in Super Smash Bros. There's an argument people make for Paper Mario and Mario also being separate under that same way, but that's a lot more contentious than I ever would have thought, is that Paper Mario debate. Same with Archie Sonic versus Sonic, things like that. Ness and Sans, yeah.
And when we talk about only stuff represented in Smash, a more accurate way to say that is that we're using the representation in Smash to settle disputes about franchises where canon is unclear.
Like the Falcon Punch.
Yeah. But also, like with Mega Man, if we only used what was represented in Smash, he would get like none of his arsenal. So we aren't limiting canon to what's shown in Smash as much as using what's represented in Smash to clarify canon.
Yeah, to like inform what we use. Dang, guess no Archie stuff. I wish we could use Archie Mega Man. That would give us so many more feats. I think Archie Mega Man can just absorb people's abilities by touching them if they're robots. But yeah.
I want Mega Man to get the abilities of fighters he's beat in the tournament.
That would be really cool. We could probably do an Easter egg, but it wouldn't affect the...
That's fair.
Wouldn't affect the battle. All right. And yeah, those are all of our rules. Does anyone have any questions on those 6 rules that we went over? Anything you want us to clarify? Try to keep it more general rather than character specific. And then we can get into some more character specific stuff in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And you field their questions. I'm going to go grab some water.
All right.
Do you need any?
That'd be great, yeah.
Do any of you want water? Just put it in chat. I'll make sure to...
We do not promise to give any water.
Oh,
I'm going to take your seat while you're done.
And plug the Patreon again.
Yeah, post that Patreon again, Frostbite, if you will. All right, let's see. What questions do we have? Does Kirby get copy abilities from his past opponents? No, you will not. I don't know, we might do fun things like that, but just as Easter eggs, they won't affect a fight. Do you think Pokemon should be researched on species? Do you mean like a composite member of their species instead of an individual Pokemon? If so, yes. Did you enjoy researching Sonic's speed? No. I hated that. Ink told me I was supposed to only talk about rules questions, but he's gone. For Sonic, I went through all of his games, and I looked for clips where I could time his speed in comparison to, like, gravity in effect, and then I adjusted the speed that I calculated to account for the difference in gravity shown. It was a pain in the butt. Free-for-all battles, we might at some point in the future, but we haven't really talked about it. I think we aren't very focused on that right now, at least. The character that has been the most annoying to research so far, oof, that's going to be a tie between Sonic, Sephiroth, and Joker. Joker and Sephiroth just had so much to go through, and Sonic also has a lot to go through, but has, like, the most interpretations of what he can do that are different than how our series is going to be presenting them. Do you ever withhold feats if you think they aren't necessary for the character to win? No, but sometimes we get lazy and don't calculate feats if they aren't important to win. I generally try and calculate every significant feat I can find for a character, but that isn't... I don't stick with that if it feels like there's a clear difference between their top tier stuff and there's a big gap between the opponents.
What was the question?
If we throw out feats if we don't feel like they're necessary for a character to win.
How did you answer that?
I said no.
Okay.
And then favorite alt ending. Lucina versus Rob is my favorite right now.
It's really funny.
Isabel versus Ganondorf is my favorite upcoming one.
Do you know what we're planning for that?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? I'm really excited for that.
It's so good.
That animation has no right to be as good as it is.
That one is... It might be our best one ever, just in the entire series.
It's like... Unironically, and it's not a joke one, like Lucina versus Rob, where it's 5 seconds. It's really great. I'm going to take my chair back from you.
Fine.
We should get you a nice chair, too.
That'd be great. Is this your water?
Oh, yeah, that's my water.
Where's my water?
I thought you said you're good.
I said I would like some.
Oh, well, you can go get some water. I'll field some questions.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Guys, ever since my son was born, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I can't remember anything. The fact that I didn't know how long ago it was just proves my point. Thank you so much for plugging the Patreon Frostbite. Let's see. I'm curious, what do you guys think was your favorite matchup so far? And if you could match any character in Smash together for a matchup, who would it be? Even if they've already gone, even if they're against someone else. But yeah. Let's see, how long does it take to animate a 60-second battle? Sonic Taunt asks. That takes us, I think, for an animator, probably 4 to 5 weeks. Maybe 5 to 6. Yeah. Excuse me. But we're actually upping the average length to about 90 to 120 seconds. Question for Ink. How's your water? Oh, it's fantastic. Is it okay if I interview you guys on my channel for a video? Go ahead and reach out to us. You can use the email in our About section on YouTube, or you could reach out to me on Twitter at ink_thinks. Don't do at inkthinks. That is a very, very sweet British lady who writes about dogs and gives motivational TED Talks. She's fantastic, but it's not me. Or you could do at the Smash Bracket. Let's see. So if the Smash Bracket is about finding who is the most powerful Smash character, how exactly will you handle characters who get the win by having the needed counters? I'm not exactly sure I understand the question. I'm going to get you more.
The question is that there are going to be some characters who lose, even if they should go higher in the bracket because they got countered early on.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of just one of the necessary evils of having the tournament, is sometimes there's going to be mismatches or someone who gets put up against someone way stronger early on. And that's with any tournament. Back when I competed in Melee, I was maining Ganondorf and loving every second of it. And then round 1, I got put up against one of the best Ganondorfs ever, and that was just the most demoralizing thing ever. But to counter that, just like we did then, with Melee, there's a loser's bracket that we're planning to do, hopefully. Also got knocked out round 1 in that, though, so it wouldn't go well for me. But yeah, there's going to be some matches where one character gets taken out early just due to a bad matchup. even though both are super, super strong, and they're much more likely to have a strong losers bracket run. But in order to avoid things like that, that's why we have some more one-sided matchups that you're going to see. Things that you might be thinking, why on earth are they going to do something as big of a stomp as that? And in general, we're going to try to avoid stomps and do interesting matchups. But if that does happen, then that's the reason, is we want to kind of try to seed fighters that are stronger so that we can have more interesting fights later on in the series. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, community tab questions. Thank you for the reminder. Let's see. Any other questions?
I can pull those up.
Oh, thank you. I actually think I have it here. Oh, nope, I don't. I don't know what I'm talking about. Steve versus Link would be interesting. That is really interesting. They both have a lot of different things they can pull from. We're using Composite Link. We're in the middle of researching that episode right now. I think we've touched on it, but yeah, those first 3 videos, Link versus Ridley, Mega Man versus Mario, and then King DDD versus King K. Rool. All of those results are still up in the air. We're redoing all of them because that research was done with a smaller team and less clear standards. They weren't edited as nicely. And I want to make sure everyone's favorite character gets a fair shot. So we're going ahead and revisiting all of those. Eggman versus Doof, that is going to be our Christmas special. We haven't started work on it right now. We're looking for a 2D animator. We want to find someone who can do like a cartoony style. And I think a musical would be super fun, like a Phineas and Ferb song, but we'll see. We're going to have something really fun for it.
No promises, because that would be very expensive.
That would be very expensive.
But very cool. So
yeah, we're going to get Lin-Manuel Miranda to write it, and actually...
If you can get every person on Earth to back us on Patreon, we will definitely do it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're doing Patreon for. It's not just to have an income for us. Everything is going right back into the channel. So the more we get on that, the more we're going to be able to get cooler battles, longer battles, more 2D battles like Isabel versus Ganondorf, which I'm so excited to show you guys. I've said that 1,000 times. But anyway, community tab questions.
Are we going through all of them?
If you see repeats or things that aren't particularly relevant, then we don't have to, but for the most part.
Okay. Then Arrogant Prince asks, how do you think the bracket results would change so far if you used a more traditional versus rule set? And would you consider doing one with a more traditional rule set, seeing as bracket style versus show is still incredibly unique on its own?
You can go ahead and answer.
I think that so far, I don't think we've had any episodes where the result would have changed too much, except maybe some of the ones we're redoing. Mm-hmm. We've got some coming up that would definitely change, but nothing that we've released right now.
Yeah, and we're not doing this rule set to have something unique away from traditional versus battles. I personally have had zero involvement in the versus battle community. I didn't even really know what the rules were outside of being a casual watcher of Death Battle, as far as what people typically use, what they don't. And I kind of like the approach of being an outsider to the scene, because I feel like it let me come into it without predispositions towards certain rule sets, and so I feel like it's created something kind of unique or original you won't find elsewhere. But we're not doing it for the sake of being unique or original. It's just something I feel like we can apply evenly to each character. So if we were to use a more traditional versus battle rule set like Death Battle or versus battle wiki, I don't feel like I would trust myself to be consistent applying it to every single character. I think that would be a lot harder, and you'd get a lot more things that are open to individual interpretation rather than the interpretation of the rules.
Yep. How are we going to calculate Steve and Mr. Game & Watch's power levels?
Oh, I'm all of a sudden really thirsty.
So Steve's easy. He's got feats, so we're going to measure those just like we would with everyone else. I think we're going to use dungeons, but we haven't really talked about that yet.
I imagine they're asking about creative mode versus survival mode.
Not creative mode, Steve. Definitely not. We're using survival.
Creative mode, and he gets command prompts, and also he's an actual game developer. And modded.
Game & Watch, we haven't talked about, and I don't know anything about him, so I can't say for sure.
He's a weird one. With a character like Game & Watch or Paper Mario, if you try to take our real-world physics super literally, they have 0 mass and can do 0 damage. But that's so boring. So yeah, we haven't gotten to Mr. Game & Watch yet. I personally have no idea. Anertimus, I'm going to make you a mod. He's part of the research team, And he says he's going to play through every Game & Watch game.
Great. Feel free to join our Discord and argue for how we should interpret Game & Watch, though.
Yes, by all means.
One of our mods should link that if we don't have that in the description.
I did not do a good job on our description at all. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong place for this.
We'll skip that question. Will you be including spoiler abilities, for example, Fire Emblem Awakening spoilers? I guess I should do a spoiler warning. Robin being able to summon the power of Grima at any time in fights. The answer is yes, we will be using spoiler powers because those are generally where people have their highest strength. But if it's like a significant spoiler, we'll probably put a warning for it.
Mm-hmm.
But also don't watch videos analyzing characters if you don't want to be spoiled on them.
That is a good rule of life. I keep accidentally making people mod because I'm not good. Oh wait, if I shrink this window. All right, life hack. Okay, there we go. I am now smarter than the YouTube browser interface.
Congrats.
Okay.
How long does it take, time-wise, to create a 60-second animation?
So I already went and answered that. He posted it in chat. But in general, it takes probably 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how challenging of an animation it is. But it also depends on the animation medium. For example, Isabel versus Ganondorf has been in production a lot longer. And just today, we started work on Joker versus Snake, which is a 3D animation with actual 3D models. And that's going to take 4 to 6 months.
And be so worth the wait. What was the inspiration behind some of the round 1 battles? So I imagine that that's talking about some of our random matchups.
Yeah.
We tried to make as many cool ones as possible, and then we threw the rest into a mixing bowl.
That's what we found out, is we could have really thematically matched everyone up round 1, but that would lead to like a... if we only went with even matches that had a thematic tie, then it would lead to a winners finals with, I don't know, Olimar and Sephiroth or something like that. Or you would have a lot weaker characters getting a lot further and further down the bracket just for the sake of matching them up for it. So yeah, like he said, there were characters where I thought, oh, well, that's something really cool. For example, Mario versus Mega Man. They're platformers, and you always hear Mario versus Sonic, which are also platformers, but you don't really see Mario versus other platformers talked about, so it's something I thought would be cool. Link versus Ridley, kind of that theme of a knight fighting a dragon, I thought was really cool. Things like that. And then that left us with some leftovers like Lucina and Rob, which Anonymous actually found a way to tie together, that they both kind of saved their respective franchises. But the honest answer is we got a lot that we thought were really thematic and cool, and then we just had a bunch of others that we had to match up, like you said.
One thing I do want to touch on, though, is that I see a lot of matchups that are thrown away by some people because it feels like there's going to just be a ridiculous stomp in the characters. And I mean, we do have a couple.
Full disclosure, I picked some of those thinking this is going to be so funny. This is such a stomp. Everyone's going to have a real nice laugh.
But our rule set tends to bring characters a lot more equal to each other than you would expect, especially with killing not being necessary. Mm-hmm. Sonic versus Fox is our closest matchup so far, which is crazy.
Yeah. Okay, if any of you are involved in versus battles outside of this, go tell people to look into Star Fox more. It's so cool, and no one talks about it.
We did basically all of the research for Star Fox. That exists, I think.
There were a few, like there was a respect thread for the R-Wing, which was pretty cool, and then Death Battle talked about them a bit. But there were a lot of things that were just really undersold or represented differently. Or overlooked.
I do think part of it is that we were able to talk about it after some of their more recent games, which some of those other things didn't have.
Yep, that's true.
That helped. And we looked at the dinosaur game, which no one does because it's terrible. Ugh.
The dinosaur? I was thinking of that game you get on Chrome when you lose internet connection.
No, it's the game where Sonic gets trapped in a dinosaur world and he wanders around. No, sorry, Fox.
Yeah.
Sonic probably has a dinosaur world game too. He has so many.
Oh, here's a good question I want to answer real fast. A Man with a Plan 5 asks, what is your plan for my boy Shulk? So that's the thing. We were originally running a Kickstarter, and one of the rewards for the Kickstarter, if it funded, was anyone who had backed at that level would be able to vote for a wild card fighter to fight Shulk. So the rules for that fighter is they can be anyone from Smash that isn't a character, or isn't a playable character. So it could be an assist trophy, a Mii costume, a spirit, anything like that. You would be able to bring them into the tournament. excuse me. That said, the Kickstarter unfortunately did not fund. So with the way we're restructuring it right now, we're going to do a stream in the future coming up. I'll make sure to announce it on my community tab. And anyone who donates at a similar tier to what we had in the Kickstarter will be able to vote or take a vote for who that matchup is going to be. Did I describe that right?
Yes. It's also going to be offered as a Patreon tier.
Yes.
Or I guess is offered now since that's live.
Oh yeah. So if you want to get an early grab on voting for Shulk, voting who fights Shulk, you can go to our Patreon, which one of the mods should.
And that'll also give you voting rights for future matchups, as well as matchups in the... We'll talk about more about how we deal with that later, but another benefit. Let's see. What do we think about Death Battle rematching Link versus Scott? It is cool, and I respect them for going through. It takes a lot of work to do this.
Yeah, I would say anyone who's going through Final Fantasy canon and trying to get stuff for their characters, I think that they are just going to need a good vacation afterward. And Link, here's my hope for the battle, is I believe they're using composite Link like we did. And I wish I could rescript that battle because there's so many really, really, really cool things that Link can do and different interactions he can have that nobody talks about. Like he can shrink, he can grow, he can play the ocarina. A lot of people don't know that. Just lots of really cool things that he can do. So I hope that they really show off his moveset and all of his crazy versatility.
All right, so then what made you create Smash Bracket? We addressed that already. And then why did you do Mario versus Mega Man and Sonic versus Fox instead of Mario versus Sonic? We kind of talked about that too already.
We kind of talked about that. Yeah, so the question is, why didn't we do Mario versus Sonic? And there's a few reasons. Number one, that's been done a lot. But secondly, we wanted, especially early on, a bit of a layer of separation between us and Death Battle. Because if people come from Death Battle to us expecting the exact same thing without seeing the context of our rules, they're going to be real disappointed, just because things are so different here. There are some actual Death Battle matchups that we're recreating later on. For example, 10 versus Carry.
Stop.
What?
Ken versus Terry.
That's what I said.
No.
No?
You said 10.
10 versus Terry. Okay. Every time I've talked about this matchup since we thought of it, I've said 10 versus Carry, and I'm not even trying to. And it's when I type it, too. It's just forever swapped in my brain. Yeah, Ken versus Terry. That's one that we're recreating. I'm really excited for that. We have a bunch of different animators coming together. But in general, we're trying to stay away from it. But yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more. David Goldman Mammer asks, how are you doing? Yes, this is my question.
I refuse to answer.
Yeah. Same.
No, I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here.
It's really fun to work on the project.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's great seeing the community get built and come together and talk.
It's been really nice having a research team pulled together. There's so much to go through with each character, and we really want to make sure that we handle fan favorite characters as best as we can. Like, how long do you think you went going through Sonic Speed and through feat submissions?
Like 2 days at least, like continual days of work.
Yeah,
Probably
there's a lot.
At least 30 hours just on the speed.
So in a second, we're going to talk about a kind of sister series we're bringing to the channel with fan matchups. The very first one is going to be Zero versus Shadow. And we're going to give some more detail on that and kind of what we're doing with it. First, any last questions you have about Smash Bracket in general, go ahead and send them now. If you didn't make it to the community tab, we will take another 4 minutes and go through those.
I keep seeing someone ask how we do the sprite animations.
Oh, so I actually don't do them, neither does he, but our animators do. We have a team, is it 10 or 11 now? I think it's 10.
Maybe it's 11. It's a lot.
A team of a lot of different animators. They're really, really, really good and really cool. I'm so excited that we have them. But their general process is they find sprites that are available to use, I believe on a website called Spriter's Resource, and then they put them into either Adobe Animate or an old version of Adobe Flash, typically is what they use most often. And then with those sprite sheets, you're able to link together several still frames and kind of manipulate the image to kind of have it appear like it's fighting. Kind of like a flip book, if you guys have ever made those. We ought to have Levi or someone on here sometime to talk about it. I think that would be really interesting.
He'd probably be up for that.
Why isn't Weeb a mod? Oh, that's a good question, actually.
Because his name is different on here, so it's hard to recognize him.
Is it different?
I thought he's Asian.
Oh. Let's see.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
Oh, I don't see him.
Okay. Right there.
Oh, yep, there he is. See any other questions?
Who is your most wanted versus battle? It became Doof versus Eggman for me as soon as I heard it.
That's such a good one. There's another one I was talking about a little bit earlier, which is Percy Jackson versus Zagreus. I think that would be a really cool one. Son of Poseidon versus Son of Zeus. Wait, Son of Hades. Oh, although if we had Hercules from Disney in there too, that would be interesting.
Zagreus versus Hercules would be fun.
Yeah. Oh, here's a question I noticed come up a lot, which is, what are you going to do on the channel when the bracket ends? First off, that's several years down the road at least. If we just did a winner's bracket, I think we would have like 2.5 years before we finished doing 2 per month, which is a really crazy rate. But also with a loser's bracket, that's just going to make it even longer. So I wouldn't anticipate that for several years down the road.
That is a good transition to talk about SmackDown, though.
Yeah, let's talk about our sister series we're hoping to bring to the channel, Super SmackDown, if you want to kind of explain your thoughts on it. Or what it is.
Yeah, so the idea is that we love what we're doing, and we love having a tournament of Smash characters. It's super cool. But there's also a lot of versus matchups that would be interesting to look at under our rule set, and a lot of matchups that we feel like the community is really wanting to see animated that we could handle tackling. So we are going to be starting a series with matchups outside of Smash that we research and animate just like usual, but we are also trying to make it have more community involvement. So for the first one we're doing, it's Shadow versus Zero. It's from Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man. Mega Man X, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we had the community vote on who they wanted to see matched up, and they chose that, and then we've had them...
Specifically our Discord community
yes,
was the one who did that.
And then we had them work and debate and come up with some research for the characters for like a week now or something. And then we're going to be turning that into an actual animated episode. We are probably going to be transitioning how we're doing it a little bit, though. We want to keep the community involved, but we need more structure and organization for it in order to keep it flowing with good momentum and keep it at the quality we want it to be at. So we are going to be transitioning to the research team, doing the research for these episodes, but trying to keep as much community involvement as possible. Specifically, we're going to be using streams like this to get input from people and address feats and research to make sure we're including everything that people want us to.
Mm-hmm. And then handling voting going forward, how are we doing that?
So that's going to be, like Ink said, we're going to be having another live stream in the future, and anyone donating past a certain amount will be able to vote on the next matchup. And then we also have the Patreon tier. I believe it's $25 to get voting rights to those matchups as well as everything in the future.
Yep. So if you've ever wanted to, if you have this battle in your mind you want to see happen and you don't have another way to get to it, this is your chance if you're able to back us on Patreon or else donate during a future live stream.
This series is also going to include the giveaway that we did. Is that ending soon?
Our giveaway is ending in just a couple of hours, actually. Frostbite, I'm going to send you a link to that if you would post it, or I'll just do the mod chat. It's for rights to choose any matchup you want to be animated and put on the channel.
And it's one that you get giveaways for over time, but there is a reward for creating a public reaction video that will basically take you straight to the top, because not many people have done it. So keep that in mind. But it'll cover stuff like that. It'll cover the Doof versus Eggman one, as well as some other custom battles that we'll do for other situations. For instance, right now, we have people on our research team who are getting to choose their own matchups. And so all of that is going to be under the Super Smackdown.
Super Smackdown.
That, yeah. It's going to be under that umbrella.
Yep. So we're going to be starting work on Zero versus Shadow's animation very soon. We have an animator lined up for it who is incredible. He's so cool. I'm so glad he's working with us.
He's going to make that fight awesome.
Yeah. If you guys want to talk about it, we have a place dedicated in our Discord server to come and talk about it. Very specifically, I want to make sure that we can show things for fans of Zero that they weren't able to see in the death battle that he fought, which I actually didn't know Zero versus Metal Sonic was a death battle till we had already accepted this. So now I really want to just make sure we kind of make it our own thing and kind of can have it stand apart. So if you have any ideas or some submission ideas for future Super Smackdowns, you can put that in our Discord server.
One thing that we like to do with all of our animations is look for really iconic or cool moments from the source material for the characters and be sure to put references to them in the animations itself. And so that's the kind of thing that we're always open to suggestions for, because sticking in the kind of things that people like to see is awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Any questions here? Any questions about Super Smackdown or anything we've talked about today? I'm trying to think if we had anything else left on the agenda.
Not unless you want to dive into any of the research questions.
Would you like to do that?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay. I don't necessarily know what you mean by that, so I'll let you kind of take the lead.
Well, so we have specifically with the transfer to the research team doing stuff for Shadow versus Zero, there's a lot of things that people might want to bring to our attention to make sure that we've considered or wonder how we're going to handle it. But then also I know people have a lot of questions about characters and what we're doing with them specifically. We still haven't gotten to most of the characters in Smash, so we might not have a firm answer for some of the ones that are further away. But I can answer any questions the best I can.
Harriel wants us to clarify rematch of the first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
That's
so
we
talked about this a little bit earlier, but basically we did those first 3 episodes as basically a proof of concept. And once we saw that there was a lot of interest in it, we decided to dedicate ourselves to this more seriously and put more effort into it. And at that point we came up with a more formal rule set and process, and I just decided I should actually learn the math for how to calculate things instead of just eyeballing it.
Yeah.
And anyway, the result is that those first 3 videos are very different from what we do nowadays. They don't really live up to the standards we have, so we're going back and redoing them. We're not going to do that often.
Yeah,
we're only doing it because they were basically like a prototype, and we want our whole bracket to be great.
Yeah, if we get something like horribly offensively wrong in the future, there's a chance we'll do it. And there's no guarantee that we're turning over any of the winners. That is a possibility, but I don't want people to come into this thinking all of a sudden this character who lost is going to win because they're looking at it again. There is a good chance of that, but we just don't know yet. It is a possibility. Let's see. What are the limitations on character choice for Super Smackdown, I imagine?
Yeah, you say, for example, offensive characters. Yeah, we're not doing anything that's like from adult games or media. Other than that, I don't think there really are limitations.
For right now, we're probably going to prioritize matchups that, number 1, have sprites that are good and easy to use, just because that'll help us get them out quickly. While we still don't have a ton of funding to do custom sprites or more hand-drawn animations. And then secondly, we're probably going to prioritize ones that are going to be good for the channel's growth. So for example, if there's two super obscure characters that no one really knows versus a matchup that we all think is going to be really likely to help the channel grow, we're probably going to side with the one that'll help our channel the most, at least in this early stage.
And I guess only 1v1 fights for now as well.
And only 1v1 fights for now. As much as I want to see Team Rocket versus Team Pilaf.
That would be great, actually.
How often do Smash Bracket matches come out? Every 2 weeks. Every other Saturday is the plan going forward.
And I think we're hoping to get to the point where we're also getting out a SmackDown episode every month as well.
Yep. But anyway.
Any questions about research or how we're handling specific characters before we go?
Yep. So, are you looking specifically for characters we've already covered to talk about?
That would be ideal. Yeah, actually, any questions about how we've handled the matchups we've posted so far?
Yep.
Outside of the first three, probably. I know Mario and Mega Man didn't get the best representation.
We can,
and Link versus Ridley.
Yeah, we can field some of those questions, but we'd probably prefer other ones. How tall are you? We are both just over 3 feet tall. We luckily have tall chairs and very tiny room.
Backwards.
What?
We have small chairs.
Oh, small chairs, yes.
Otherwise it would look weird with us.
Can you make sure Nair gets into a fight? I actually think every character in Smash Bracket has a Nair. That was such a funny joke. Let's see. How are we going to handle Shulk's Monado powers?
He'll get them. A lot of them, I haven't taken a very detailed look at them so far. A lot of them are a little too vague to mean very much in a fight. But we'll try and represent them the best that we can. I know his future sight is going to be a pretty big advantage for him.
Yeah. Let's see. How are you handling characters that have different abilities in different universes, like Sonic and his Sonic Boom thing?
It kind of depends on the character and how different the universes are. Where they are distinctly a different canon, we are going to probably not consider the alternate universe, just go with whatever's represented in Smash. But when there's a little more ambiguity, we're going to composite them, like classic and modern Sonic are kind of technically separate characters, but modern Sonic is also able to do things that classic Sonic could, so it's like he grew up, almost. That's vague enough that we're compositing them.
Yeah. In general, like at the end of the day, we just want it to be fun for fans of the characters while also being able to apply it to our series. Like keep it consistent with the rules.
I do not know what statements you're talking about at the end credits of
Minecraft. I don't know either.
Oh wait, that's the one about I think it was like gods talking about you or something. I don't know, we might consider them, but they're not going to be feats.
Anytime someone says God in relation to a feat, I get real skeptical because a lot of those don't hold up in the way that people think or hope that they will. What is up with the order of the matchups? I'm not sure what you mean exactly. We have them all listed out. They're not in any specific order. You can see those on our Discord. Right now we have a lot of them being worked on. Have a lot of them being worked on at once, and so we're kind of playing it by ear of when things are released based off of when they're finished, and also trying to balance hype so we don't have 3 super high demand matches in a row and then nothing cool for a few weeks or a few months even. So yeah, there's nothing super specific for our release schedule in terms of which characters fight when. If you want to see that, you'll have to look at our the ends of our Smash Bracket videos.
Is Ness getting his omniscience and omnipresence? I really doubt that that is going to hold up under Smash Bracket's rules, but we are planning to look into it thoroughly at least to make sure we give it a fair consideration.
Let's see. Can you do Sonic versus Fox sneak peek? We can probably post a work in progress on the Patreon, but I don't really want to put anything out here right now on the stream because I don't trust myself to not leak anything, and I'm just now realizing you probably meant like a video sneak peek between the weeks. We're going to have something like that to hype up matches between. I don't know if it's going to be a full sneak peek of the fight, though. Let's see. What are you going to do with clone characters like Dr. Mario and Zero Suit Samus?
Those both have been composited into Mario and Samus, but other clones like like the Echo fighters are separate, Roy and Chrom, for instance.
Or Samus and Dark Samus. So if it's the exact same character, they're going to be composited, but if they're different characters who just happen to be Echoes, then they won't be. Will you do SNEAK PX like other shows or other versus shows in the future? Yeah, I just mentioned that there's a chance we're going to do something like that. We want to do something to keep hype going out between the matches. We're still just trying to settle down into a rhythm.
Pokedex entries are being considered, but not taken at not as gospel truth.
Yeah, that goes to one of the rules that we were talking about, like our hierarchy.
We'll use them to back up ambiguous things, but we're not using them to create feats for Pokemon.
Yeah. Yep, so you explained that really well. All links in Smash are composite under normal link, FYI. Yep. So that's something we went back and forth on, because there's an argument to be made about composite link or not composite link. And when it came down to it, for a few reasons, we went with composite link. You've played as more versions of Link than we would be able to represent in Smash Bracket if we took them each individually. And then we also had to kind of decide, do we want Link to be really underwhelming or really cool and strong? And, excuse me, I thought it would be more fun to have him be cool and strong. But then also on a more logistical standpoint, we don't have good sprites for a lot of different versions of Link. And so being able to represent him early on meant we had to kind of composite and use a different sprite for Link than we would if we were taking each character by themselves. Let's see. I saw your poll and many people said that Sonic beats Fox. Could there be a surprise incoming?
That fight is so freaking close.
Yeah.
People will not believe us about how close it is, but
they won't. Anytime, you might have seen my other poll, what's most contentious to talk about, religious politics or Sonic the Hedgehog's speed? And that last one, what's the percentage on this? Because I felt like it was accurate.
It is definitely Sonic's speed.
Anytime you mention Sonic's speed, I could say Sonic can move 10,000 times the speed of light, and there would be people who come in here and say, how dare you say something like that? You son of a motherless goat. People get so up in arms about it. And I just clicked on something that had absolutely nothing to do with what we were talking about. Here we go. So, what is the most contentious debate? Religion, 7%. Politics, 13%. Sonic the Hedgehog's maximum speed, 80% across nearly 800 votes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, with Sonic, you have such a wide variety of his speed, because there's so many different ways to interpret what's on there. If you take everything each character says as absolute fact, and then are really generous with how you interpret it, then Sonic's going to be at a totally different level than if you just look at what he's actually done. And even then, he's going to be at a totally different level than if you look at what he's only done in gameplay. There's someone in our Discord who was saying, don't use gameplay and don't use cutscenes, only use lore. I don't understand their argument. But yeah, there's a whole array of different speeds for Sonic. Let's see. Any other character-specific questions? Preferably for characters that we've already talked about. What will you do about DLC that aren't out yet? We're planning to automatically just instantly match them up. Unless there's some real obvious reason why that wouldn't work, that's the plan. Do you think any characters in Smash are going to have Universal Plus feats under your rules?
I really doubt it, because it's hard to demonstrate feats at that level. But there are some contenders for sure. There's a few I know about that have feats at that scale, but they don't scale to combat, I think. Like for instance, Rosalina fixing or recreating a universe, or Shulk doing that. Oh, that was maybe spoilers. Anyway, it's just, there are things that are very impressive, but they're usually done really far outside the context of combat, and also usually require very specific things in the story to happen. We're not opposed to it, but it's just doubtful.
Yeah, what level would the strongest character that we just measured, where would he come in on like a versus battle wiki scale?
When we were talking about today?
Yeah.
Where would he come normally?
under our rules if we put him on that.
Oh,
because I would have thought that's universal.
I think Dwarf Star.
That's Dwarf Star. Okay. I don't understand anything.
Yeah, it's gonna be different than people are used to for sure.
But if someone actually does portray that on screen, then absolutely we would count it. Bayonetta, from like the 20 minutes of research we did into her, seems to have a pretty decent argument for infinite strength. We'll have to look at that more. Probably shouldn't say that when we've only done like 20 minutes of introing to it. Let's see. LDG159. Go ahead and reach out over Twitter. That would probably be the better way. But if you're trying to email, it's inkthinksyt@gmail.com. That would be the best place to reach me. But Twitter also works. Let's see. I mean, Pokemon has a ton of feats in the anime and manga, but the manga is just not getting used at all, so... And then it trails off.
Yeah, we're using anime for Pokemon just because if we tried using the games, we wouldn't have feats.
We tried using the games and tried getting feats from it, and they're just so inconsistent that we had, what, like Jigglypuff hitting with the equivalent of a nuclear warhead.
With, like, double slap.
And also, you don't actually want us to just take the games, because that would mean Jigglypuff can beat an Arceus under the right circumstances, and then your response to that, most likely, whoever you are that I'm talking to, will be, oh, but that's just gameplay, and that's my point exactly. But as far as the manga, what did we decide on the manga? I don't exactly remember.
You didn't want to use it, because it's separate canon.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's under a separate canon and works under separate rules. We're probably open to using it to substantiate other feats, but in general, Pokemon we're handling it based off the anime supported by the games next, and we could probably look to the manga to clarify other things, but for the most part, it works off of a separate canon with Pokemon themselves functioning and working differently. Anonymous says, I'm so glad we didn't use the games, or just the games, for Pokemon. Yeah. That was a headache.
Doesn't use Twitter and tried the Gmail. You could join our Discord, LGD159.
Either that, or you can leave a comment on our most recent video, and I'll make sure to look for it, and I can help you out there. Yeah. Let's see. Jigglypuff predicted Dynamaxing.
Oh. With the Final Smash.
Does she Dynamax?
No, but she gets really big.
Oh, she does. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
The matches are pretty much locked.
Yep, matches are pretty much locked. We're not going to be moving these around. But I think we're getting about on the back end of these questions. Is there anything else we're forgetting to talk about?
I don't think so. Just want to plug the Patreon again.
Yeah, plug the Patreon, the Discord.
Yeah, I don't think so. Go join that giveaway. You've got a few more hours to win your own custom matchup.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. And yeah, I think that's just about it. We're hoping to do this stream as a somewhat regular thing, eventually with a more refined purpose of looking more specifically at our Super Smackdown research and things like that, rather than having it be a rundown of what Smash Bracket is every single time. Let's see. Last couple of questions. Everyone knows that the Miiverse admins are high multiversal. Could we see them in a video? They're actually above videos. We tried animating them in and they pull themselves out, so I guess they don't want to be in.
That is true.
Will Ness and Lucas have PP meters? I'd imagine not. We haven't really been using that.
Yeah.
Because that's
We
boring.
generally just assume that people are going to be in peak condition for a fight, so it probably won't matter. Unless they have like some move that specifically drains everything they can do.
Mm-hmm. Are Pyra and Mithra 2 or 1 people?
We haven't decided.
Yeah, we haven't decided. They'll both probably be able to fight.
They will be at peak strength though. That's what we're doing.
Yep. And yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you guys so much for coming into the first live stream. It's pretty crazy that we're able to do this. Yeah, we had around 50 people watching at any given time. I think upwards to almost 70 at one point, which is really, really cool. Make sure to watch our videos, share them around if you like them. We're kind of on a time race to get our channel monetized as quickly as possible, just so we can continue to make more videos. We're at about 2,000 watch hours right now, and we need to get 4,000 in order to monetize. So sharing around, especially with reaction channels, is the best thing you can do to help us out right now. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned on my community tab or Discord if you want to see when we go live next. And yeah, until next time, thank you guys so much.
Later.